بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
What is fitna? Fitna is an Arabic word with extensive connotations of trial, affliction, or distress. It can be used to describe oppression or giving in to the whispers of shaitan, that is, temptations, and falling into sin. The present time, the Muslim Ummah throughout the world is facing some kind of fitna, that is, trials, distress, oppression, etc. Most of the times we are helpless onlookers. So is there a way out? Yes, by the will of Allah, there is a way out.
So now the question, what will actually happen to the ummah, to the individuals, if they were to abandon and neglect the teachings of this Quran? You know the first thing will happen? Number one thing that will happen is that the ummah will be living in extreme fitan, trials, tribulations, and they will never be saved from these fitan. That's the first thing that will happen. That's scary enough. That's number one. What's the proof for this? You see, the greatest fitna in history is what? What's the greatest fitna that will ever walk this earth? Ad-Dajjal. We all know Ad-Dajjal. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned that he is the greatest fitna, and there is not a single prophet of the past except that that prophet warned his people of Ad-Dajjal. Imagine Nuh alayhi salam warning his people of Ad-Dajjal, and he won't even come out in his time. That's how intense al-fitna is, that everyone that existed on earth should know about him. And we're closer and closer to this fitna, and we are in the ummah in where this fitna will come out. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam spoke the most about Ad-Dajjal in comparison to all the other prophets, because Ad-Dajjal's appearance will be during this ummah. So what did the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam teach us to do? What did he teach us to do in order to protect ourselves from this greatest fitna? He taught us to read the opening ayat of Surah Kahf on Ad-Dajjal, and whoever does so is protected min fitnat Ad-Dajjal. So if you don't know the ayat of Surah Kahf, you will not be saved. You will fall in al-fitna. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying to us that the Quran will save you from the greatest fitna of all times. And this is why the scholars, they took from this hadith and this idea that if Surah Al-Kahf and only 10 ayat of it were enough to save the believer from the greatest fitna on earth, then surely the 10 ayat of Surah Al-Kahf and the entire Quran put together is more than enough to save us from every fitna that exists on earth. Because every fitna would be less in its intensity than Ad-Dajjal. And if Ad-Dajjal is the greatest, and 10 ayat will destroy him, will protect you from his evil, that means this Quran surely has enough power within it to protect us from the fitna of wealth, the fitna of women, the fitna of knowledge, the fitna of authority and leadership, the fitna of whatever you want to call. Lakin this is only for a person who abides by this Quran and has it alive and present in his life. Surah Al-Kahf teaches us the reality of zinatul dunya and how to see through it and not be deceived by it. And the word rushd and rashada, you know this word, it comes in Surah Al-Kahf, rashada, atina min ladunka rahmah wa hayyi lana min amrina rashada. Rashada means guidance, and rushd, a person using his mind to see what's wrong from right. This is a rushd. It is mentioned 4 times in the surah. Rushd, guidance. And every story of the 4 stories in Surah Al-Kahf teaches us how to choose the path of rushd, how to choose the path of guidance in the most testing of times, and how to avoid being deceived by zinatul dunya, by the decorations of this worldly life. So, from the hadith that were mentioned concerning the virtue of Surah Al-Kahf is that whoever reads Surah Al-Kahf will be granted light from one Friday to the next. And so by the time the next Friday comes and your light is decreasing, you read Surah Al-Kahf and you increase it once again. Heck, you always need to be on top of things. لأن الفتن, they come from nowhere. Heck, all of a sudden a fitna is exposed on a person. تعرض الفتن على المؤمنين عودا عودا. Heck, they expose, they appear on a person. And you cannot afford in any one given day of your life that your protection is low. Keep it up, keep it high, so that whenever the fitna is there, until you have energy.
So, if you're facing any kind of problems or fitna, recite Surah Kahf abundantly and regularly. If time is a restraint due to your busy schedule, then read at least the first 10 ayat of Surah Kahf daily. The 10th ayat consists of a very important dua in which we ask Allah to have mercy on us and facilitate our affairs with His guidance.
إذ أوى الفتية إلى الكهف فقالوا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا.